Say it just is the case that you have a 1 in a billion chance of getting struck by lightning every day. Then with those odds, someone will get struck by lightning in the US once every 3 days because we have that many people. So it can seem like there is that there's an outbreak of this thing happening when in fact it's actually very rare. So, I mean, another way of looking at this is that a big problem with the way people look at racist incidents. Let's just assume the Starbucks was a racist incident. It's actually unclear that it was, but let's just assume for the sake of argument. People look at racist incidents like this with a kind of the mindset of it like a disease. So think of something like smallpox. Smallpox used to be a huge issue, and it's the kind of issue where it's not enough to get rid of 90% of it or 99% of it. It really is useful to find the last person in the world with smallpox and make them not contagious and just you never hit diminishing returns fighting something like smallpox. It really is worth it to get down to the last case. But then think of a problem like homicide, for example. Like the homicide rate in New York used to be 10 times as high as it is now in the 90s. We've gotten rid of 90% of the problem, but it's still 200 or 300 people in a city of 8 million get killed every year. What would it take to get the homicide rate in New York down to 0, right? It could be done, but it would require a completely totalitarian top-down solution, putting cameras inside of everyone's houses and marshaling the police to do nothing else but try to prevent homicide. It would be unlivable. It would not be worth it. You would hit diminishing returns trying to get the homicide rate literally down to 0. So many people view racist incidents as a kind of smallpox scenario where it is worth it to continue fighting it down to the very last instance. Where I view it as much more like the homicide problem, where you can reduce racism and racist incidents 90%, and it could be the case that you just hit diminishing returns at a certain point, because in a country of 350 million, there will always be enough bad people to justify a few racist instances that don't indicate a trend or an epidemic. And we just have to, it's interesting that we just don't have these intuitions about homicide. Like no one is scandalized by the fact that there were 200 homicides, 200 or 300 homicides in New York last year. But if there are a couple racist incidents at a Starbucks, it's a national scandal. No, I mean, this doesn't make any sense. They're treating it like a disease outbreak, right? Which is, in my view, the definition of a moral panic.
I think that I guess anyone who's not Black assumes I just have to go with what I hear the Black experience is like. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. That goes back to